So hello and welcome to another episode of the Sinead Says podcast. Sorry, I can't speak today. Today we have Victoria Niamh on, who's going to come on and talk about her own journey into self-love, body confidence. I've watched this girl grow. I was just telling her before the call that she probably doesn't know, but I've been following her since I don't know. I just remember you doing bikini competitions and stuff like that. So I must have been following you very, very long time. And then you've had this massive transition into this amazing person who has so much. I think I even watched you go through the hardships and then you've come out at the minute. So it's kind of you went through your own journey with your own issues that you're going to talk about in a minute. And I just really wanted to dive in. And you're also, you own something called the Glow Up Project, which is very kind of similar to what I do. It's more mine's is more meditation, but yours is more retreats, teaching women how to love themselves, self-love. And when I think of you, I always think of self-love anyway. I just want to show my viewers and audience, what is the best ways to start the self-love journey. That is a question people ask me all the time about self-love. And sometimes it's hard to navigate it, but that's your job as well. You do coach women in that. So hello, welcome. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for having me on. And my day's very much just begun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So basically what we're going to talk about today is just your journey into where you are now. You're in a very amazing space right now of owning yourself. I feel that's a good phrase for you. And you didn't start off that way and you've went through a lot to get there. So maybe just start from the beginning. And I'm just interrupting this podcast to talk about our amazing sponsors, BetterHelp, who have sponsored the Sinead Says podcast from day one. And you all know how much I love therapy and vouch for it all the time. It has been completely life-changing for me. It has really upped my game. And for me, it just really helped me with my performance, my self-belief, setting boundaries to be the most successful person that I can be. And it's also really helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries, and it just empowers you to be the best version of yourself. So BetterHelp is convenient, flexible, affordable, and all online. And all you need to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and find a time that suits you. So to get 10% off your first month, just visit betterhelp.com/Sinead. That is betterhelp.com/Sinead.
Okay. So I grew up as a dance kid. And when I was 13, I decided I wanted to go into dance. That's what I wanted to do for a job. When I left school, I wanted to just dance. And so I went to college straight from school. A lot of people go to college, dance college anyway. They go to college when they're 18. But I went when I was 16 because I was so set on what I wanted to do. And I would have said that I was quite confident in myself and in my body, but I feel a lot of it was a projection of confidence and it wasn't an internal confidence. But I never had any kind of issues with the way that I looked, other than maybe feeling everybody around me hyper-focused on the way that I looked more than I did. And so when I turned 18, so college is 3 years for dance college. When I turned 18, I was going into my third year, which meant I was going to be starting to do auditions for jobs for when I left college. And I felt like I was such a perfectionist at the time. So I was going in on my training. We would finish college and I would still be there training, doing whatever I could to be the best that I could be. And I felt, right, okay, the only thing that I've maybe not focused on is my appearance. And looking back, I did not need to do anything with my appearance, but it felt everybody around me, and we was constantly being told your body's your CV. You shouldn't be sitting around on the corridors at any point whilst you're in college. If you sat around, you should be at the gym. And it was always, you should just be going hard. And so it was trickling into my mind, and I wasn't internalizing that. And I went on this weight loss. It wasn't really weight loss, it was more a body transformation journey from my second year to third year. And I just wanted to come back in third year with a set of abs. It just sounds so ridiculous, but
it's not. We've all been there. I think our generation is in that, we were in that space, and I think that we really did get into that ab space. And I could never have abs. It doesn't even exist. As in, I don't even think I have the muscle under it, you know what I mean? But yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like the health and fitness space at that time was just abs.
Abs.
Like, if you can get abs, it was like strong, not skinny vibes. We'd gone past skinny, but we
Yeah.
were on strong. So it was like, can you get muscle? I had no idea how to do that though.
Mm.
So for me to try and get abs, I was going to the gym and I was running like 10K a day. I do not know how. I can't even run 2K now, but I was running 10K a day and I was doing like 1,000 variations of different sit-ups, like, and that's no exaggeration. I would just be there for ages, like in so many
Yeah.
different positions. So anyway, I lost quite a lot of weight quite quickly and went into my third year, and it was quite evident to a lot of people around me that I'd lost weight, and my teachers were saying, you look great, you don't need to change anymore. But I'd already gotten a little bit trapped in that mindset that I need to get better. And being such a perfectionist, I was like, nothing was good enough for me. So I needed to go harder. I needed to do more. And then with any kind of weight loss journey, any kind of body transformation, you get to a point where it gets harder and things stop. Like the results don't come as easy. So then I started to look at food, and then I started to follow people on Instagram who, a lot of them were Americans at the time, doing the whole
Yeah.
like, if it fits your macros thing. And a lot of them were actually bikini competitors, but I didn't understand what bikini competing was. I was just kind of like, they just look incredible. And so I would just copy what people did. And if people said, don't eat carbs, I stopped eating carbs. And then like the next person would say, you shouldn't eat many fats, I would not eat fats. And it was like, don't eat this, don't eat that. And I was just taking it all on, thinking, right, okay, for me to be the healthiest that I can be, I need to cut out all of these things. And that I then formed a really unhealthy obsession with the scales. And at this point, I just completely lost control. And this was when I was I was diagnosed with an eating disorder, with anorexia, orthorexia, which is the obsession with eating clean, because that was another huge thing back then, like clean eating. So I was diagnosed with anorexia, orthorexia, and later diagnosed with depression as a result of the eating disorder. And at the time, I obviously thought it was all about my body, but there were other things going on in my life, like at home, and just anything that would happen in my life, whether it was a loss or something with parents or literally anything. I was the person who would just kind of be like, oh, it's fine, it's done with, like it, it's done. I wanted to be the happy friend. Everybody came to me, and everybody still does come to me with their problems. But everybody came to me with their problems, and I never felt able to go to anybody else with what was going on for me, and realize later down the line that the eating disorder, and this is a lot of the work that I do with women today, the eating disorder was nothing to do with me wanting abs to be the best dancer, to get the best jobs. It was about control, because I felt so out of control of things that was going on in my life, and the only thing I could control was my body. And if I could really try to perfect myself, I was able to mask all of the fear and all of the shame that I was feeling internally. And so I was lucky that I guess not so lucky. I hit my rock bottom with the eating disorder, where I was basically told by my psychiatrist that if I didn't start to get better, I was going to die. And like with any mental health problem, I think you have to make that choice. Nobody else can tell you. And so I made the choice to start to recover. And yeah, then I started my Instagram, and I mainly started it as a cry for help, because I felt like I'd isolated myself from everybody around me. And yeah, I gradually got better. And then there were other people who started to follow me because they were looking to me to get better. So I felt like I wasn't just doing it for myself anymore. I was doing it for other people. And then, yeah, went into the whole bikini competing phase, which I realized was a celebrated eating disorder, I guess, for me, not
So
for
this was
everybody.
after recovery.
So
Okay.
I recovered. I was in my recovery for about a year. I was at a healthy weight, but the thing with eating disorder recovery, which I think a lot of people don't talk about, even people in the healthcare system, is especially recovery from anorexia, where you have lost weight, there's a physical side and there's the mental side. And once you're physically recovered, they will say that you're recovered. But the mental side takes a very, very, very long time to heal from. And so I was physically recovered. I definitely was not mentally recovered, but at the time I had no idea. I was being, kind of signed off from the doctors, from the psychiatrist, from my therapist. And at this point, because at the late stages of my recovery, my dad got me a personal trainer because he knew I was always going to be somebody who wanted to move their body. And so this trainer taught me how to lift weights and all of that. And he also introduced me to self-development work. And so I thought this guy was incredible. And I still do, owe him a huge thank you to what he introduced into my life. But then I wanted to become a personal trainer because he was so incredible in my life. And it was when I started as a personal trainer, I was so shy and I'd lost a lot of the confidence in myself. I found it really, really difficult to go out onto a gym floor and promote myself, like try and get clients. It was my worst nightmare. I had such a deep, deep fear of rejection. So I just couldn't do it. And I would literally sit in my car and just be like, I can't do this job. What the fuck am I going to do with my life? Because at this point, I've like said to the, well, like, what's the words? I basically said to myself, dancing is just not for me. It's not for my future anymore. So gone down the personal training route. And again, I felt so out of control of my life, of my work, of what I was doing. So I was like, I know everybody else is fixated on my appearance for my whole life. I'll just do a photo shoot and then I'll get clients from me looking good on these photos. Like, I don't know where my head was at. Obviously, I
feel like
young.
that was just what everyone did. And like, I wouldn't eat yourself about it, because I think that's all. Even when I was doing my PT, like if you didn't have a photo shoot that you looked with abs, nobody wanted you. But it's so mad now, because I would go for like almost the opposite. I would go for someone who's like supportive, caring, funny. Like if I wanted a PT, but I think that was the rage, wasn't it? All the PTs had the photo shoots, and you would diet for the photo shoots. And then when you're already dieted, I'm guessing that's probably why you were like, oh, I might as well do a bikini comp while I'm at it.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, all I can vision is the tricep.
Yeah.
What's it called? Like the tricep rope pull.
Yeah.
With all your tan on, with like your bra
And like the
top
gym
and
is so dark
like,
behind. It's like so dark, and then you're just lit up, and it's just like, and like there's so much Photoshop on your face, and there's like, I mean, people do it still to this day, but like obviously it's not the reason why you should be going for a PT, if you know what I mean. And even like I remember like my previous boyfriend, he was like, oh, I can't be a PT because like I need to have a transformation. And I was like, no. Like I look at PTs and think like I just need support, and they don't need to look like anything. They just need to know the information and to be supportive. Like it's like, I always say this as well, like a dentist, eats sugar, even though he tells you not to eat sugar. I feel like PTs are allowed to have their own life, and they sometimes be in that bubble. So I suppose like you and other people are breaking the stigma for PTs and stuff as well. I think like you've been doing a good job. Everyone's been doing a good job at it. I think this year and the last few years have been so much better. But so sorry, you were you were at the photo shoot for the PT.
Yeah, well, so I didn't actually make it to the photo shoot.
Oh,
so
okay.
I hired this coach to do the prep for the photo shoot. And I think maybe because of the background in dancing and whatever, my body took to the dieting really quickly. And he said there's a bikini competition going on in I think it was in 8 weeks. And I think you should do it. Like, you love being on stage, all of that. So I was like, I've seen these people on Instagram doing these bikini competitions. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And like, I'm not gonna lie, the first competition I didn't feel like I was in a bad headspace. I didn't feel completely consumed by my body. And I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience of being on the stage. Like, obviously growing up as a performer, I wasn't able to be on the stage anymore because I decided I wasn't dancing anymore. And so that was like an experience for me that I quite enjoyed. But because I got through to the finals from that comp, the finals were like right at the end of the year. And so my coach was like, you don't want to step away from the dieting and all of your training too much, because that means you're going to have to go back into, you're going to have to start from the beginning basically when the comp comes around. I think you should put more comps in through the year so that you can remain in like peak physique, he would say.
Oh,
Yeah. And then I, being so fixated on food, on my body, then turning my whole social media into that bikini competitor energy. And I was just consumed by myself. I lost I didn't lose a lot of my friends. I stepped away from a lot of my friends when I had my eating disorder, mainly just because of my mental health. But then with this, I was literally just so body obsessed, and like my whole world revolved around the competing. And when I was getting to the final comp, I realized that I just had an eating disorder again.
yeah.
I remember really panicking and saying to my coach, I don't want to compete. I don't want to do this last competition. I know like my mind and my body are falling apart. I was losing my hair at this point. I've got like alopecia areata, like the stress alopecia. So I was getting like bald patches in my hair. My periods had stopped. My skin was falling off. I didn't even look, I didn't look muscly. I just looked really like emaciated.
Mhm.
And so he was like, you know, your comp's coming up. You should just do it. You should go for it. And then you don't need to compete ever again. And so I was like, right, okay, I'll just go through it. But I remember training and I would be crying whilst hip thrusting. I was in such a bad
Yeah,
place.
exhausted
And
as well from like the lack of
yeah,
nutrition. Yeah.
did you ever compete?
I never competed, but I was definitely in that same space in terms of like I wanted to look like that. And I felt like I was in the fitness space. So I was fitness influencer. It was probably after you, I would say. But I definitely felt a massive focus on my body and definitely went through my own stuff. And there's so many times where I almost did, because it was a trend as well. It was like you have to do this in order to get higher and better. So I
Yeah.
thought there were so many times I did toy with it, but I'm so glad I didn't, because I think I really did suffer with my eating as well for a very long time. A lot of emotional eating, a lot of binging, and definitely way past that now in my life. But never did compete. But what you're talking about really just relates, because I just felt like everything revolved around the gym, everything revolved around food. And if my body had an inch of like something more on it, I would be like, oh my God, need to cut back, need to cut. And also the same with you with no fats, no
Mm-hmm.
fats. And also I did a lot of I ate one meal a day for a year, like maybe like a year once. Like it was like in the times of like doing seasons of Magaluf, we would eat like one meal a day, but also I was binging as well. So it was kind of went through sort of that process. But like in term, I kind of feel like that's like my body's kind of fucked. Like I've got hormone issues, I've got endometriosis, I've got all these things, but I'm like, I was really nasty internally, like to myself in my own
Mm-hmm.
brain, and also how I treated it nutritionally as well. So I also had the hair loss and all this stuff from but I definitely think our generation, especially in Instagram and thing, we got caught up and a part of it. We were all part of it, and we were just didn't know how the fuck what was going on. And I'm so happy now that the new generation, even though there is still a lot going on, the new generation are seeing a little bit different for
Mm,
sure. I mean, obviously I only follow people like you and everyone that's doing everything right. So hopefully like it is going that way. But yeah,
yeah.
I definitely think our generation got a little screwed over with that.
Yeah, it's almost like that's what we needed to do to prove ourselves in the
Yeah.
fitness space, which is it's crazy. It
Yeah.
really is crazy.
Yeah. And then so then did you do the bikini competition?
Yeah, I did the last comp. And do you know what? It's quite funny. I so when I finished that comp, I found out that my boyfriend at the time was cheating on me. And I'm actually really glad. Like, I knew that I didn't really want to be in that relationship, but because I was so consumed in myself, I just saw all of the ways that he was serving me and my bikini competing, which just sounds absolutely awful. But that's the headspace I was in. So anyway, I was not surprised that he was shagging someone else, if I'm honest. But I found that out, and the girl who he was cheating on me with, her we all knew each other, which was really awkward. Her ex, her boyfriend, she was cheating on her boyfriend too. He ended up reaching out to me and being like, do you want to go for a coffee? We're both in a similar situation, because we all worked for the same company. And so I went for a coffee with him, and we just clicked and we really got on, and he's now my partner. Like, we've been together for like
Yes,
8
I forgot. I think I might have seen you say this on TikTok. Did you do a TikTok about it recently enough, like a few months
Yeah,
ago? I
yeah,
seen it and I was like, oh my God, that's actually mad, isn't it? How like, so you're still together from then?
yeah. And
Wow.
like, the reason why I share this is because Mike, my partner, is so he's always had this confidence in himself, not in an egotistical way. He's always just been so deeply confident and content in who he is. And
Secure, secure
so
man.
secure.
Secure man
Yeah,
can heal so many things.
yeah, like, so secure. And so even though he also is in this fitness space, he did not succumb to all of the dieting and the body transformations and all of that. He's just an incredible person around people. He can
Mm.
make people feel incredible about themselves. And so I remember thinking, like, I cannot be this weird around food if I really like this person, because he will just think that I'm a weirdo and he won't want to be with me. And like, because we bonded really quickly, and I knew that I really had something for him. And he was the first person in my life who made me feel like I was something more than my appearance. And whenever I would sabotage myself, because obviously after competing, I needed to gain quite a lot of weight to be healthy again. He really helped me love myself. And I think, like, one of my least favorite quotes in the world is, you, if you can't love yourself, how do you expect
Yeah,
other
I was
people
just
to
gonna
love
ask
you?
you that question because I there's two sides to that story as well. And I feel like when you have a secure man who loves you for who you are, it's literally like so beautiful. And I even remember, my first boyfriend who made me feel like that. And like I remember always wearing makeup, like full kiss makeup, like eyeliner winged all the time. And I remember like him looking at me in the morning being like, you're literally the most beautiful person. And like almost those things would have healed me into like, oh my God, like I don't need makeup and I don't need things. So if you're with the right person, like, do you think like, yeah,
Absolutely. I think I think somebody else can hold a space for you whilst you're on your journey of loving yourself.
mhm,
But I think you unless you experience a deep, deep love, and I know a lot of us will experience that from parents and caregivers and friends from like a young age as we're growing up. But with Mike, it was like a different kind of love, and I knew that he wasn't just focusing on my appearance, and he loved me so deeply. And feeling that love for what felt like the first time in my life helped me know that I could love myself in that way, because I hadn't experienced that kind of love before. Like, even like my parents and just everybody who was in my life until that point, a lot of the validation I received and the love I received was because of my appearance. And it just felt like it was so different with him. And so I learned, okay, I can love myself for more than what's just visible to everybody. And yeah, he really like changed my life. And I feel from meeting him, I've been with him now nearly 8 years, and I've that was when my journey to self-love and real inner healing began. And that's when I really started to recover from all of the eating disorder stuff and really started to unlock all of the things that were actually going on for me internally that I just pushed and pushed and pushed. And yeah, I've just kind of had that space created for me for the last 8 years to really start to heal from it all. And yeah, step into my own, I guess.
Yeah. And if people are listening and they're kind of on this journey, because I definitely think like our body beliefs have played a massive part in everything that we should look like and everything, I mean, your body beliefs came from dancing. So what you're expected to look like as a dancer, whereas I feel like mine came from fitness industry as well, or, how our mums spoke about their bodies and how we would hear other people talk about anyone that had put on weight. And
Mm,
like, I always say that it has to start with us. Like, we have to stop, especially in front of the younger generation, like complaining about our bodies, because
mm,
although we could possibly be too far gone as a generation, sometimes I feel like we need to teach them that we have to accept us. And even if I feel something, I do, like, even on this, on the Instagram as well, like you've got what I eat in a day, and you've also got like people like my thing was I used to unfollow people who would be talking about losing weight because they
mm.
usually had a desired body that I already wanted, and they would be like, okay, I'm on a diet. And I noticed it's also about being aware of the triggers, right? Isn't it? So I would look at that and be like, I'm triggered. If she's on a diet, what the hell am
Mhm.
I doing? You know what I mean? So what do you think are the major triggers for people at the moment? Like, and how can they move past them? I think the best thing for me was awareness. As soon as I
Mhm.
would see someone on a diet, and like I'm guilty. I did that. And I'm sure you did that as well on Instagram. Like, I'm on a diet, follow my diet. Like, this is all the things that I cook. Like, I barely put anything up now about what I eat, or not what I eat. Like, I'll put up like what I'm eating, but I won't put up my
Yeah.
full eating of the day, just in terms of like, because obviously we eat all different things. I eat something completely different every single day. So
Yeah.
yeah, where do you think we are in a space of that? If you know what I mean, like, where are we on those triggers and what we should be showing on Instagram, what we shouldn't be showing? Like,
Mhm.
what example do we need to lead in order to keep people from being triggered?
So I think a phrase I use a lot is how our body image issues are an external projection for what's going on for us internally. So no matter how fixated you are on a part of your body or how triggered you're feeling and thinking it's because you need to do something to your own body and you need to change your own body, the sabotaging thoughts and the hateful thoughts and the need, like the absolute need to change in order to feel happier or more confident goes way deeper than the actual body. It's something that's going on inside for you. And just focusing on the body and continuing to change the body is, it might help you seek some validation for small periods of time, but then you need to do more
Mhm.
because say you go on a weight loss journey, you lose like a stone. Everybody's like, oh my God, you look amazing, blah, blah, blah. Then all of that, all of that praise is going to stop because people are used to it. Okay, so what do I need to do now? Do I need to now get a bigger bum? You might get the praise for the bigger bum. What do I need to do now? Do I need to like change my face? You might get the praise for that, but then people are used to it. So then what do you change again? And we can go about our lives continuing to change all of these things to receive the approval from other people. But I always compare it to, say you have a car, right? If that car is not working, you wouldn't jump to painting the outside of the car a different color and think it's going to work again. You wouldn't get a new like bonnet for the car, just replace it with a different bonnet and think it's going to work again. You need to go to the insides of the car and fix whatever's going on for you, and then your car's going to work again. And I think it's the same for people. We need to not continue to change and shape and shrink ourselves to feel that, whenever we're changing our bodies, we're not just changing our body to change our body, we're changing it to get a feeling. We
Mhm.
want to feel different. How can you get that feeling without just focusing on changing your appearance? I don't want to sound like I have anything against people wanting to change their appearance.
Mhm.
I think, you do you, and you should do what makes you feel good. And I'm somebody who loves to get glam. Like, I love my outfits. I love doing my makeup and my hair every so often, but it's not what I focus on to get the feeling of confidence, of happiness, of success, of just love within myself. And I think it's harder to go in and do that internal work, which you'll know yourself, because you do a lot of it yourself, and you take a lot of people through it as well with your meditations and stuff like that. It's harder to do that stuff than it is to go and change your body. But that's important. And until you go and do that inner work, you're going to continue to be triggered by people on Instagram, by what people around you are doing, by every single time somebody tells you that they're on a diet and you feel like you have to go on a diet. You'll always be triggered by that stuff unless you go and do the inner work.
But how do we do that in our work?
So, I mean, get your meditations for one.
I know. I would say, like, as well, if we're doing the inner work, like one of the most powerful meditations is a type of self-love meditation. That's basically taking the focus off everything that's negative about your body and focusing on everything that's good. I'll
Mm,
even do these meditations for people that are very sick and very ill and really dire times as well. And whenever, sometimes it's the only thing you can focus on is that. So even as simple as like every day, what focus on something that your body does that doesn't actually evolve, like
mm,
your body image and how it looks in terms of like your weight and stuff. So I'll do we'll do like, thank you for your eyes that get to see your loved ones and your kids growing up. Thank you for the lips that get to kiss. Thank you for the legs that allow us to dance and play with our friends and family, and our feet. So then every day we go through our whole parts of our body and talk about all the things we're grateful for and all the things that our bodies do. Our bodies are digesting food all day. Our bodies are doing all this stuff for us behind the scenes, and we are constantly looking at what's wrong. And if we concentrate on what's wrong, we're just sitting in that negative space, and it'll never be enough. So no matter what we do, it's never like, we could be the skinniest person and never, and it's mad. We know this feeling. Anybody that has, do you have time hop where you look
yeah,
back in your memories
yeah,
and you look back and you're like, I remember that day hating my body. I remember hating that outfit. I remember, and it's insane because there's so much to look for in the good as well. So that's why I'd say that's one of the main ones for self-love in my course is those concentrating on everything that your body does. And also, like, something that very helped me, something so simple as every single day I would write down something that I like about my body. And every day I would change it, until it came to the point where I would run out. But even
mm,
as simple as like, I could look at myself if I put on weight, but instead I could be like, I'm so blessed because I have great skin. And
yeah,
I have very thin hair, but somebody might have very thick hair and they can go, I have very thick hair. They're very
yeah.
blessed. So like there's different qualities and different people, and things like eyelashes or lips, or like there's so much to concentrate on rather than the bad. So I think that's been a massive tool for me. But I
Yeah.
mean, what do you suggest in terms of like the inner work?
So something I say quite often is, you don't have to love yourself to treat yourself like you're somebody that you love.
Mm,
And when you can start to treat yourself like you're somebody that you love, there's a process I take people through with this, but really simply think about somebody who you love. So whether it's a partner, whether it's a friend, somebody
mhm,
who you love so deeply, how do you show up for them? And like, I'm a really practical person. For me, I can't just always think things. I have to think, how is this done practically? Okay, so if I love Mike, so how do I show up for him physically? I will do things for him that I know he likes. Okay, so how could I do things for me that I know I like? I will text him or friends to check in, like, hey, you okay? How can I check in with myself? Things like journaling is one of the best ways to check in with yourself. Meditation, one of the best ways to check in with yourself. And going through like you can go through the different ways that you love somebody else
Mhm.
and figure out, okay, if I give that to them, what do I like? What do I want? What do I need? And how can I start to practice that for myself? So that's a way that you can start to treat yourself like you're somebody that you love. Um, but I think the goal doesn't always have to be, when it comes to healing from poor body image, the goal doesn't have to be to get yourself into a place where you absolutely love your body. I think you want to, the goal is actually to transcend body image thoughts so that you can just live your life in your
Mhm.
body. Like I have a body, and it allows, I guess, like what you were saying, understanding what your body helps you do. And I think sometimes we can get so trapped in the healing from the body image, because there is so much online that's like, you should love yourself, just love yourself, you should love your body. You don't have to. You can just acknowledge that you have a body
Accept it,
and you're
yeah.
able to live your life with it. So yeah, but I think when it comes to doing all of the inner work and healing the internal triggers, I guess a good starting place, and this is where I start a lot of people on in my workshops and on my retreats, it's like self-image work. I'm guessing you'll have done quite a bit of like well, you will have, you do so much inner stuff. So understanding what your self-image is, what opinion do you have of yourself, and what opinion do you think other people have of you? And I just get people to write that down and be really honest with themselves, so they know what their starting point is. And they're going to have opinions of themselves that are benefiting them, and they're helping them be in their power to become who they want to be, and they're going to have opinions of themselves that are completely limiting them. And the only thing with your self-image is the failures, the things where you haven't gone so well, the bad things that people have said to you. Those are the things that we hold on to, and those are the things that really ruin our imagination for who we can be and what we can have in the future. So when we can acknowledge those things, we can recognize, okay, that has happened, but it doesn't need to define my life. I can let go of those limited things that are not benefiting, those limiting parts of my self-image. How can I step into, and how can I create a self-image that empowers me to be the person who I want to be and have the life I want to live? And I guess through your meditations and visualizations, that's how we can create that better self-image for ourselves that's going to empower us moving forwards. And I think that's a really great place to start when it comes to doing that inner work and recognizing, like, where am I right now and what do I need to work on. And I guess there's like the processes too with the limiting self-beliefs, where you can go into your fear and your shame and your traumas, all of the things that are amounting to this negative self-image, or this limiting self-image, should I say. You can go into and do that inner work. And I would say you can do it through journaling, but getting a therapist will be
Mhm.
one of the best things you can ever do in your life, and have somebody else help you navigate that stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of the work I do with women around body image, we don't really talk about body image, because it
Yeah.
just goes so much deeper than the body.
Yeah. And I like what you said there about, because I would always teach as well about, in terms of like shame and it being like the blockages of self-love. Like it is literally like clogging the arteries, because we actually are not even aware of how much shame we hold for so many different things in our lives. Like, and something as simple as, I always say this, like, I think I did a speech and it's about all the things I did that made me feel shame, like little silly things like stealing. I stole with all my friends.
Mm.
When we were younger, like going into the shops, and I stole and like labeled myself as then a thief, and like labeled me, like had the shame, but like never really thought about it until I was doing my self-love journey. So you've got things like that. You've got things like, sometimes, when you're growing up and you've no self-awareness, and maybe you're in a relationship, you flirt with someone else, you do something because I have so much shame for that. But when I look at it, I'm literally a girl who does not love herself and just wants to be loved and liked and validated by someone else. So like one of
Yeah.
my best things for self-love was looking at that shame, little things that made me feel shameful, made me feel like, the mistakes you make when you have no self-awareness and you are just grabbing for everyone's validation apart from your own. And I think like we grow up and we make all those mistakes. Like think of all the relationships. You have all these crazy fights when you're younger, when you don't love yourself. Like you're just very in your own ego and in your own fucking world. So all those things, like I would eat myself open. But when you look back at it and you look at your shame, you just all you can see, especially in meditation, if you're doing like any sort of meditations on like shame or inner child, you look back at all those moments where you felt shame when in fact you're just someone who wanted to be loved all
Mm,
along. And then like you melt the shame with compassion. And it's such a
mm,
good technique as well. And yeah, I loved that. I love that. And sometimes it's hard because when you say self-love, you sometimes think affirmations and I do love affirmations, but all those things, then like sometimes you're like, oh, you have to do the dirty work and go back in
mm.
time and look at all the things that made you feel certain ways. And yeah, I definitely think bringing the shame thing was into it. And then there was another thing. Oh yeah, you were saying about your retreats, the first thing. I actually love that. Such a good idea as well to talk about their self-image because it brings awareness. And then once sometimes as well, like that's a good thing about journaling. When I journal, sometimes I'll write my stuff down and be like, oh my God, that's so irrational. Like that's
Yeah.
so crazy because like it's out, it's in my brain running around. And if I write it down and when I look at my old journals, I'll look at my negative thought and then I'll watch myself write how to rationalize it out. Because
Mm,
obviously, once it's out of your head, like the therapist as well, once it's out of your head, you can start rationalizing and come down to earth. So I
mm.
love that. And then, yeah, on our retreats as well. So in the first day of the retreats, if I'm in like a hot country or whatever, I will get into
Yeah.
my bikini on my own and I'll stand in the middle and I'll say, does anyone care what my body looks like? Because
I
I
love
know that especially when we're in hot countries, people get paranoid. Like we all know that when we went on holidays, you're like, oh my God, I need to get ready for holidays, photos, people in a bikini. And we don't realize the only person that cares is us.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so I would stand up and I would just like get all my kit off and I would just say, does anyone care what I look like? Does anyone care at all what my body looks like at all? And everyone's
Mhm.
like, no. And I'm like, okay, so let's continue the retreat. In terms of like, if they want to get into their own bikinis or whatever, it's a great
Yeah.
tactic to be like, no one actually
Mhm.
cares. Because if you don't care about what I look like,
Yeah.
crazy. I think you said
I
this as well. Like, people don't look like they would look like anyway. So
Oh, literally.
yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. So yeah, you're also coaching people as well to gain confidence and I just like to know like what is the most common thing that is coming up for your clients at the minute, and how you're working through that. Like what is because if it's common in your clients, it's going to be common for our listeners here because our listeners are probably all girls. Sorry boys if you're listening, but and yeah, I'm sure they're probably looking for some advice on how to gain this confidence and self-love.
So I guess the most common thing for the women who come to me, probably because of my own journey and what I share online, is people struggling with their body image and just wanting to be able to give less fucks, I guess,
Yeah.
when it comes to putting themselves out there to gain friendships is a huge one. Being able to
Mm.
make friends and not be conscious around creating new friendships and just being able to live their life and not allowing their thoughts about themselves and their bodies hold them back. But I guess the way I take them through all of that and the way that I help them really see themselves beyond their bodies is like what we've already discussed
Yeah.
around helping them get to the root of it. There's always a root for
Yeah.
everything, and I think when you can unmask those things, that's another part of the process, recognizing what masks you are wearing for the world, whether it's, for me, perfectionism was a huge one. Also, hyper independence. I would be this super independent person, and it was not serving me at all, and this is something that I've had to work through, definitely more so recently as opposed to in the past. But recognizing what masks they are wearing for the world and helping them take them off. I think as humans we want to put ourselves into a box because that's how we are more digestible for other people. Like if they can understand. And I think this is something, when you have a social media platform, people really want you to be in that box, and they really want you to stay in that box, because that makes them feel really comfortable. But it's the same for people in day-to-day lives. People want to be able to say, okay, well, she's this type of person and she does that kind of thing, and she likes she likes these kind of things. And it can be very black or white, because that's what helps people feel safe. And what I really like to help women who come to me see is that we are so multifaceted, and we're so messy, and we're so contradictory, and we can be so many things. And yes, it might feel like it's too much for some people, but those people are not your people. And it's when we can take off all of these masks and feel like we, I guess the biggest mask for the people who are coming to me are the mask of their image. When they can start to strip that back, they are able to form those deeper connections and just really get the most out of their life.
Yeah. And you know what's a really powerful one as well? I do a self-acceptance meditation, and a lot of people will bring up there's a more in the self-acceptance, I get people to imagine someone they love very, very much. So if you're listening to this, like just imagine someone you love very, very much, and right in front of you, like feel the love, feel how much you love them, accept them. And now I want you to imagine them complaining about their insecurities, maybe their weight, maybe their skin, maybe their hair, or whatever it is. And I started to become aware of this when I had a friend, and she would always be like, my skin, and it's crazy because I was like, I don't even see your skin. I just see you. I don't
Uh-huh.
even, and then I'm like, oh, and then she'll like bring awareness to it, and I'll be like, oh, because like you just know what she looks like, you know who she is, like
Yeah.
it's just like an energy, like for me, I don't know. So when I wrote that meditation, I was like looking at that person that you love so deeply, and when they start to complain about the little things like their arms or their what, look at them and how much you do not care
Mm.
what it is that they're complaining about, because they are just them, and you accept them for exactly who they are. And we all know this, like if we've ever been in a relationship and that our partners, they put on weight, they lose weight, they have periods where they're looking different. Maybe some people, even men lose their hair, women grow older. And being someone who loves someone, it's crazy how much you just love them even more. Like you
Yeah.
want to squeeze everything, you just want to, and like, I just think like when you, as you said before, you said treat someone like you love the way you love another person. And it's just like that same feeling. And I'm like, that they feel that about you too. If someone loves you, like they don't care about, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're just skin sacks and organ holders. And do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think a really easy way that you can connect with your body every day and show your body love is literally through like massaging moisturizers, oils, and not just being like this. Like I'm such a big, I have to have hydrated skin, otherwise I literally can't put clothes on, it knocks me sick. Um, but taking that time to moisturize with creams or oils, whatever you use, and not just slapping it all on, but just giving yourself like 3 minutes. It can take 3 minutes to just moisturize your whole body, and just seeing it as a connection with yourself. And you can do that whether you shower in the morning or the evening or both. You can take that time for yourself to just really connect and treat yourself like you're somebody. Like imagine you're massaging into your partner, or like you're on holiday and your mum's asked you to put the sun cream on her back. Like you don't just slap it on. Well, sometimes I
Yeah.
would if I'm being a bit of a dick. But yeah, you want to do it from a
Yeah.
really, that's a really nice practice that you can do every day really easily. And just, yeah, if you want to go further with it, you can introduce the affirmations where you just kind of like, I love you, like I love my body, I'm accepting of my body. But yeah, just the act of doing the moisturizing
Yeah,
is
I
really,
had a book as well. I actually think the book was called Love Myself, or Love. I think it was something very simple. I'll remember it. I'll put it in the show notes if I get it. And it was so uncomfortable. It was like, look at your eyeballs in the mirror. Sorry,
yeah.
mirror. And you probably can't understand when I say mirror. It's so funny, but That's
Oh
mirror.
no, I get it.
I know. And then so it was like, look at yourself in the mirror. It was so uncomfortable, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Look yourself in the mirror, in your eyeballs, like literally in your eyes,
Yeah,
and tell yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you. And obviously this at the time it felt so uncomfortable. But when you say something like that to yourself over and over again, your brain starts to like trigger into like actually doing things that love yourself. Like I ended up being more disciplined because I was like, I actually love myself. And even at the time, obviously, when you first do affirmations, do you fuck believe that you love yourself?
yeah,
You just say it, you just do it, and like your brain just follows the way. But that was very uncomfortable for me. But at the same time, I find it very, very useful. And I remember doing my silent retreat. When I was doing my silent retreat, obviously there's nothing to do. Like you can only meditate and walk. You can't write, you can't read, you can't do anything.
wow.
I know, yeah, it's pretty hectic. So I was like, I'm gonna stare myself in the mirror. So I was
Mm,
just staring myself in the mirror, like, I really do love you. Like I really did. And then like honestly just grew this like to myself. Like it's sometimes sometimes little things like that do help
yeah,
as well as all the deep inner work. But there's loads
yeah,
of
and I
little knacks.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And a really good way for people to incorporate that into their daily life is when they're brushing their teeth. Everybody
Yeah.
brushes their teeth for 2 minutes. So longer if you like to have a good brush in there. But looking in the mirror, like instead of being like brushing your teeth and faffing around your house, like trying to get things sorted, take that 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not a long time. Look in the mirror and do your affirmations. I saw this, I think you do a lot of like looking into the brain and stuff like
Mm.
that. I saw this neuroscientist on TikTok actually, and she was talking about how the first 10 minutes when you wake up, your brain is still in theta state.
Better, yeah.
Better, yeah. I need to look into more of the science behind it, but she was basically talking about how that first 10
Mm.
minutes, if you can incorporate your affirmations into that first 10 minutes, it will change your whole day and it'll change your whole life. So even, when you're just waking up, the first 10 minutes of your day, having some affirmations. I literally just put on affirmation soundtracks on Spotify and
Yeah.
just play them so they're there in the background. I don't know. Do you know more about this?
Yeah, so that's because you're going to be in your subconscious when you go into your different waves. And this is the wave that we like essentially want to be into in meditation as well. Because if you're in that wave and you're doing an affirmation, it really does sink into your subconscious. So when you wake up, just before you go to sleep, it's very, very powerful to do affirmations and to do any sort of things like that. Especially some people even wake up, but you are very sleepy. So sometimes if you're in that wave, you like, and you put a meditation on, you might fucking conk out. But yeah, so those sort of waves, because like sleep is delta, and then you've got theta, alpha, gamma, and they all play a massive role on your conscious and like where you are. And you want to have a different wave for different expressions or different times of the day. But when you wake up in the morning, it is very powerful. When you're in that sort of sleepy mode, it's very important to put on a meditation, put on affirmations, or even just say it to yourself when you wake up. Like it's so, so powerful. So loads of techniques, loads of little tips and tricks.
Many.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what would you suggest as books? Because I obviously love to read, and like I've had so many self-love books. My favorite one for self-love though is The Mastery of Love. Have you read that?
No.
Oh my God, you
No.
have to read it. Please read it and let me know how and come
Okay, I
back
will.
to me. Because if anyone asks me self-love, I'm just like, you have to read that book because it's literally just self-forgiveness, self-acceptance. Like I'll never forget when I finished that book, the confidence that I had. And I remember asking men out and asking people out, didn't care, because it changed my relationship with rejection, which is like sort of where confidence comes from, like changing your relationship with the rejection and knowing that if someone rejects you, it's really not that big a deal, is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a great book. So if you've got any books, throw
Oh,
them out.
right. Okay. I need to read that. I really do need to read
Yeah.
that. Do you know what? I've only just started reading that like self-help books again, like in the morning. I just
Yeah.
turned to completely reading stories. I always get fiction and non-fiction mixed
Oh,
up.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I just turned to completely reading fiction. But non-fiction books that have helped me, I guess more with more so with
Mm.
confidence and just really connecting with myself. Number one, The Untethered Soul. That I think that was a
Oh.
really beautiful book. It's a really easy read. Have you read it?
Yeah. And no, I haven't read it, but it's literally on my list. Some people tell me to read it.
I think you'll love it, and
Yeah.
it's just you feel so connected with like mind, body, and soul after reading that book, and it's such an easy read. I feel like everybody, especially women, need to read that book at some point
Yeah.
in their life. A book that actually changed a lot for me, which is really basic now. When I've looked back at it, because I did it for book club for the membership, and I reread it again, and I was like, oh well, that was quite basic, but it really helped me with just not caring about what the people think. And it was You Do You. I
Oh
think
yeah.
maybe by, I can't remember who the author was, maybe Sarah Knight, I want to say, or
Yeah,
it might
she's
be
quite
Julie
good. Yeah, I think it
Harrier.
is Sarah Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, and just this whole idea of like you do you, and if you want to be able to do you, you have to also let other people do them.
Mhm.
And you can detach your thoughts and opinions from what other people are doing, and the more that you can practice that kind of mindset, the more that you think that other people aren't actually thinking about what you're doing, and nobody really cares what you're doing, because the majority of the time people don't.
Yeah.
That book really helped. It's such an easy read and just has such a great lesson. Really enjoyed that one for this kind of thing, but I literally cannot think of off the top of my head. I have so many books saved in my book highlights on
Yeah.
Instagram. So if you like, if anybody wants to know what my, like my top self-help books are, highlights on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, before you go, let us know about your Instagram, your retreats. I feel like you're working on something new at the minute. Did I see something on your story?
Yeah. So
Is it a
with
secret?
the and not really, like there's something there's a lot going on at the minute, but the
Yeah.
things that I can talk about. So with the Glow Up project, which is like my company, like a separate thing to my Instagram, and that's where I do I had a membership with it, and then retreats and events, and we're starting a podcast with that soon, so that's really exciting. You'll have to come on.
Oh my God.
um,
Yes.
so yeah, that's all going on with the Glow Up project. So I think my mission for the Glow Up project this year is to continue helping people do the inner work, and the tagline for the Glow Up project is a real glow up is an inside job, and that's to
Yeah.
help people do that shift from their external appearance and just focusing on everything external and go inwards
Yeah.
and do that inner work in a really non like wanky way. I'm like really in touch with my spirituality, and I love so many different practices, but I'm also I can be very logical, and I really, I like to use
Yes.
that in my self-development work. So yeah, just a big focus this year is on building communities and helping women go traveling and build friendships. So that's the work we're doing with the Glow Up project. But then, yeah, my other stuff is on Victoria Niamh on Instagram, spelled that Irish way, which I'm sure you've got lots of Irish listeners,
Yeah.
so they'll know how
Please.
to spell it. Yeah, everyone's literally like, what's Niamh? Or like, what's Nim? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh God.
I know sometimes you need to write like NEEV to people because they don't get it, but don't worry,
Yeah.
everyone on this podcast, I'm sure will get how to spell Neve. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But
But
well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, like just thank you so much. If anyone's listening to this, make sure you subscribe. Let us know in the comments or in the reviews how you like this, and have a good day.